The first time Imabong saw Adaora, she was standing under the ancient mango tree by the faculty building, shielding herself from the rain. Her dark curls dripped with rainwater. Imabong, a final-year biology student, had always believed love was a distraction. But something about the way she tilted her head, watching the raindrops fall, made him stop. "You'll catch a cold," he said, stepping closer. Adaora turned, startled. "I forgot my umbrella," she admitted with a small laugh. Imabong hesitated, then extended his. "Take mine." She blinked in surprise and asked, "What about you?" He smiled and replied, "I'll survive." And that was the beginning. Imabong was the quiet type, the guy who spent more time in the library or in the gardens catching whatever image catches his eyes. Adaora, a mass communication student, was his opposite. She's bold, witty, and full of adventures, and she was from Enugu State. After that raining evening, they started running into each other more often. One day, at the local market, Imabong spotted Adaora arguing with a fish seller over the price of tilapia fish. Her voice, filled with outrage, made the seller laugh. "Fine, fine. Take it for 5K abeg," the woman said, throwing up her hands. Imabong, holding his sketchbook, chuckled as he approached. "You should teach a class on bargaining." Adaora turned, grinning. "You again? Are you following me?" "Maybe fate is," he countered smoothly. She rolled her eyes, but her smile lingered. "What are you buying?" she asked. "Nothing, just passing through," he replied. She frowned. "That's such a boring answer. Do you even eat?" He smirked and replied, "I survive." She eyed him, then grabbed an extra piece of roasted plantain from a nearby stand. "Here, on the house." "You're paying for it?" he pointed out, raising an eyebrow. "I prefer to be called a generous sponsor," she replied. And from that day, they started meeting more often. One night during the school carnival, they found themselves alone in the crowd. The streets were alive with music, dancers in elaborate costumes twirling past them. Adaora grabbed his hand. "Dance with me," she urged. "I don't dance," he protested, but she was already pulling him forward. Somewhere between the beating drums and the flashing lights, Imabong forgot his usual caution. He let himself laugh, let himself hold her closer than he should, and when she turned to him, her face inches from his, it felt inevitable. He kissed her, right there in the middle of the street. After that kiss, they couldn't go back to being just friends. Something had shifted and they both felt it. Later that night, after the music faded and the streets emptied, they walked to the campus love garden. "You're full of surprises," she murmured. He chuckled and replied, "So are you." There was silence between them. Then Adaora turned to him, stepping closer. "What are we doing, Imabong?" His throat tightened. "I don't know." She exhaled sharply, frustrated. "I can't pretend like that kiss didn't happen. I don't want to pretend either." "So what now?" He wanted to tell her everything, that he had never felt like this before, that she made him question everything he thought he knew about love, that he was afraid of how much he wanted her. But instead, he reached for her hand, running his thumb slowly over her palm. The touch was simple, yet intimate. "You drive me insane, do you know that?" he said. She smiled, leaning into him, her fingers gripping his shirt. "Then do something about it." He didn't need another invitation. He cupped her face, tilting her chin up, and kissed her again, this time slower, savoring the moment she melted into him. The way she sighed into his mouth when he deepened the kiss, as he pulled her closer until there was no space between them. She broke away first, gasping, "Imabong." He pressed his forehead against hers. "Tell me to stop and I will." But she didn't. Instead, she pulled him back in, her lips brushing against his in a way that sent a shiver down his spine. And just like that, they fell in love, deeper and deeper. Imabong wasn't the grand romantic gesture type, but with Adaora, he found himself wanting to do things he never imagined. Adaora, on the other hand, had a habit of leaving him tiny notes slipped into his textbooks or sometimes written in the margin of his sketchbook. One night, as they were together, Adaora sighed, resting her head against Imabong's shoulder. "I don't want this to end," she whispered. Imabong stiffened. He knew what she meant. Soon, she would have to go back to Enugu. Soon, reality would come knocking. But for now, he tightened his grip around her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Then let's make it last as long as we can." And so they did. For weeks, they pretended the world outside their bubble didn't exist. They ignored the warnings and the whispers from friends. They lived in the moments between lectures, in the quiet of the library, in the stolen kisses under the mango tree by the faculty buildings. But reality always finds a way to break through. It was a Sunday afternoon, and they were at the restaurant, sharing a plate of peppered beef. Imabong's phone rang, and the moment he saw the name on the screen, his laughter died. He hesitated before answering, but Adaora noticed the tension. Imabong, his father's deep voice, came through, stern as always. "Come home, we need to talk." Imabong already knew what it was about. "Is everything okay?" Adaora asked once he hung up. He forced a smile. "Yeah, just family stuff." But she wasn't convinced, and at the same time, she was scared of what the outcome of their relationship would be. So she let the conversation go. Imabong's parents had already chosen a fiancé for him, his childhood friend Idara. Adaora, on the other hand, had her own struggles. Her family expected her to return to Enugu after graduation to marry a man they approved of. When Imabong arrived at his family house, the air felt heavy. His mother barely looked at him, and his father sat across from him, silent. Finally, the words came. "You know your responsibilities, Imabong." It wasn't a question. It was a reminder, a warning. His father continued. "Idara's family has been waiting. You know what is expected of you." "I never agreed to this," Imabong blurted out. His mother sighed. "Imabong, you know how things work. Marriage isn't just about love. It's about family and legacy." "I love Adora," Imabong announced. His father's jaw tightened. "Love is a luxury, Imabong, and luxuries don't build homes." The argument stretched into the night, ending with his father's final words ringing in his ears. "Choose, Imabong, your family or a passing romance." A week later, when he went back to school and saw Adora, he wanted to tell her everything. But how do you tell the woman you love that your love might not be enough? They met at the campus love garden as usual. Adora was smiling when she saw him, but the smile faded the moment she noticed the look in his eyes. "What happened?" she asked, voice filled with worry. "My father, he wants me to marry someone else," he stuttered. The silence that followed was deafening. Adora let out a shaky laugh, as if hoping she misheard him. "That's a joke, right?" He looked away. "You're serious?" she questioned. He reached for her, but she stepped back. "Did you know about this all along?" Her voice shaky. "I didn't think it would come to this," he admitted. "I thought," she laughed bitterly. "You thought what? That we could just exist in this little fantasy forever? That love would magically erase reality?" The pain in her voice cut him deeper than anything his father had said. He took a shaky breath. "I love you, Adora." She wiped angrily at the tears forming in her eyes. "Then fight for me. Fight for me, Imabong," she yelled, her voice breaking. He wanted to, but tradition and family expectations weren't things he could just brush aside. "I don't know how," he whispered. "Then I guess we're done," she thundered. The words hung between them, heavy and final. She turned and walked away, and for the first time in his life, Imabong realized what true heartbreak felt like, and he did nothing to stop it. Days passed, but neither of them reached out. Adora waited for his message, his call, a sign that Imabong would fight for her, but none came. And that was when she knew that it was over. The night before she was set to leave for Enugu, she sent him a simple text message. "Meet me at the Love Garden one last time." Imabong almost didn't go. He had spent the entire day wrestling with himself, pacing his tiny apartment, staring at his phone. His mind screamed at him to let her go. It was the logical thing to do, but his heart refused. So he went, and there she was, Adora stood at a corner of the love garden, her arms wrapped around herself. When she turned to him, her eyes weren't angry anymore. "We are just tired." "You came," she murmured. "You asked me to," he replied. She nodded. "I'm leaving tomorrow." He clenched his fist. He knew this. He had known it the moment he let her walk away that day at the Love Garden. But hearing her say it out loud made it real. "Adora." He took a step closer, hesitating. "I don't know how to fix this." She gave him a small, sad smile. "You can't." His chest ached at the finality in her voice. They stood in silence, the weight of everything unsaid pressing between them. Then Adora turned to face the empty night. "You know, I used to believe that love could fix anything." Imabong closed his eyes, and now she let out a soft, bitter chuckle. "Now I know better." He stepped closer, so close that their shoulders nearly touched. "I love you, Adora. That hasn't changed." She turned to him. "But you're still letting me go." The words shattered his heart. She shook her head, blinking back tears. "I don't hate you, Imabong. I could never hate you." She took a shaky breath. "But I can't wait for you to be ready to fight for me. I deserve more than that." He wanted to say something, anything, but his throat felt like it was closing up. Adora reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. She pressed it into his palm. "My last note," she said softly. He unfolded it with trembling fingers and read, "In another life, maybe we get it right." His vision blurred. He lifted his gaze, but she was already stepping back. She gave him one last look, one final lingering moment where the past, the present, and all their unspoken dreams collided. Then she turned and walked away. Imabong stood there long after she was gone, the note clenched in his shaking hands, the wind carrying the scent of her away from him. And for the first time in his life, he understood what it truly meant to lose something you could never get back.